Hey, Keith, how did growing up Amish form you into the man and business owner you are today?
Well, it all comes back down to God. My faith has formed me, and God has led me literally throughout my entire life. He's the reason that I went into partnerships with James because it provided an avenue to free me to go do some ministry. So, yeah, everything in my life ties back to my faith in Jesus Christ.
Welcome to this edition of the Whole Truth Podcast. Today's special guest is Keith Miller with Superior Home Solutions. Yep. Sorry, I had to double check that real quick. Take a second to introduce yourself, Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith Miller, the owner of Superior Home Solutions, and half owner, I should say. James Hirschberger is my partner in that, and we partnered up in April. Brought the insulation company and a gutter company together, and moved to Milroy, right beside State Road 3 there, and so it's been about 6 months of kind of exploring this and going through it and learning and growing, and it kind of exploded on us a little bit, and we've been having a good time and trying to figure everything out as we go.
So what all? I mean, how long you been doing the insulation business technically then?
So Dad started the insulation business in 2010. And then in 2019, he was moving. They moved to northern Indiana. He didn't want to take the business with him. So he gave me the opportunity to buy it. And so technically for going on 6 years now, well, it's been 6 years now.
Now, did your dad always do spray foam?
No, so I grew up. Dad was driving to Indianapolis every day, building houses in Indianapolis, production homes, and so that's what I grew up doing. I grew up summers when out of school, from the time I was 14 years old, I was going with him, helping build houses and kind of whatever construction projects he had going on.
So did you grow up Amish then?
I did.
Okay, because we've never had this conversation, and I was like, this might go a little awkward on a podcast, but so you did grow up Amish.
Grew up Amish, yep. Actually, I grew up right across the road from Milroy Shoes there. Property all the way in the back. Mom and Dad bought that in 2000.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for peanuts, back then.
Right.
They bought, it was 200 acres back there. And so we had all kinds of room to explore when we were kids, running around, riding ponies. And it was a good time.
When did you leave the Amish community?
In 2012. Hold on. Let me make sure here. 12. Yeah. Yeah. 2012. Time flies. It's been 12 years. So it'd be 2013, end of 2012. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been 12 years now since I've been. No, gosh, and it hasn't either.
Yeah, we're in 25, into 25 now.
No, it's been 14 years.
Oh wow.
It's been 14 years.
So how old are you then?
32.
So you left when you were 8?
I left right before I turned 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
now is that in the, you never know where these podcasts are going to go. So is that in that time frame where you guys can kind of opt out?
So
there's so much, there's so many TV shows and stuff. So like, I'm trying not to act like I know what I'm talking about.
It's a lot of garbage.
Yes.
It's a lot of garbage. So it's weird. Every community has its own different set of rules kind of thing. Where I grew up here in Milroy, we didn't really have that option. Okay. We in northern Indiana, I've got family in northern Indiana, and when they turned 18, they were allowed to go get a vehicle and go and live at home and drive a vehicle around. We didn't have that opportunity, so when we left. Like we moved out, and I was actually 17 years old, and I moved to Michigan because I was afraid my parents would come get me because I wasn't 18 yet. So it was, but then, just wild trying to do my own thing.
So when you left, I know this has nothing to do with insulation or construction, but so did you have to sneak out and leave, like, or because you hear them stories sometimes. So, or is there anybody ever just sit down with their parents of like, hey?
So, the first time I left, I stayed home from work that day. I told Mom right before I left that I'm leaving and probably won't be back. And yeah, that kind of haunts me still a little bit, just because of the way I did that. I came back after 3 months of living in Michigan because, I mean, gosh, all my friends were here. I didn't hardly know anybody up there. And I moved in with my cousin for a couple months and tried the whole Amish thing again. I mean, I think I was for about 2-3 months, I think, and it was like, okay, this isn't going to work. And then at that point, I went back home. I sat down with Mom and Dad and had the conversation with them at that point. It still didn't go over as well as it could have, but it was way better than the first time.
Well, and and I have no idea what it is to grow up in Amish, and I'm not going to act like I do, but I also know that when we're 17, 18, we all think we know everything, and we think our parents are stupid.
Yep.
And, fortunately, my kids are still young enough. They're not quite to that level yet.
You got to convince them that you're never going to be stupid at this point.
Yeah. So what's been some lessons that you've learned from that? Because, one thing that I've just realized just growing up is like we've all had hardships. We've all growing up, it molded us into who we are. If it was being Amish or my dad raised me practically as a single dad, so like there's different things that you learn. And if you believe in God and I believe in God, I know you believe in God, like there's a purpose for all of that. Yeah. And so, I guess what are some lessons that you kind of look back and you're like, that was just part of my story?
Yeah. So obviously growing up Amish, I mean, we worked. So nothing was handed to us. Summer times before I started going with Dad to work, we was working in the garden. We was doing yard work. I mean, we had a good sized property there, so there was always work to do, and there was expectations that, hey guys, you've got chores to do, you've got work to do, you're going to help keep the place up, and so we got taught how to work at a young age, and that's something that'll stick with me, and that I'll want to teach my kids how to do that as well. And the other thing is, even though the truth wasn't explained to us like it should have been. I mean, we grew up in faith, right? We went to church. We always knew about God. I mean, the thing that there's a lot of Amish communities that don't explain the gospel in the way that is truth and easy to understand. So that really, not having that explained to us and being in church, like it was hard for me to overcome. Mm-hmm. But when that finally hit, it was like a light bulb moment. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to do all these good things in order to make it to heaven someday. I can know that I have salvation in Jesus Christ as long as I believe. So my faith is a big thing. From my upbringing, my home life. The other thing is just, I've kind of got away from it. I mean, the Amish, there's one big family, right? Mm-hmm. And it's something that I try to cherish a little bit more than in our family at home. We're now spread everywhere, but it used to be a lot of fun to just get together with the whole family. There's 7 of us kids, and now there's only 2. I've got 2 brothers that are still Amish. So the rest of us kids get together, but my 2 brothers normally don't come together for family gatherings anymore. So it's kind of a weird dynamic, but right. I mean, I don't speak with one of the brothers at all anymore because I'm not Amish anymore. Right. But I kind of led the charge for the whole for the rest of the family. I kind of opened them doors up, and then Mom and Dad, they're not even. They're New Order Amish, which they have electricity in their house, and they've got more modern technology and stuff than just your normal Amish do. So yeah, it's been a weird journey but a good journey for the past 14 years, I guess.
Yeah, and and you hear these things like, hey, they're shunned, because I have people call me, they're like, oh, I heard this about the Amish. I'm like, well, let me ask, because I work with a lot of them. Right. I've been around them. Ray is a good friend of mine. You're not related to Ray, are you?
No.
Okay. No. But, I've had a lot of conversations with Ray of just different things, and I know there's a lot of lies out there, I guess is a bit non-truth, non-facts, whatever you want to say about, I get it. TV show, it's let's say this,
sell it, right?
And then you have the ex-Amish that go crazy on TikTok. And then it's like, okay, you went from one extreme to the other, but and one thing that I'm learning, something that I'm kind of diving into right now is being the father that I'm called to be.
Yeah.
And there's a book out that I just read. Joby Martin's a preacher from Jacksonville, Florida. Can't even remember how I ran across him, but
Joby Martin. Yeah, I know.
Stand Firm and Act Like Men. Mm-hmm. Is his new book, and he's been on a ton of podcasts because he's trying to, he's been getting out to promote his book.
Yeah.
And I just listened to a podcast yesterday. Jeff Foxworthy was on with him and Tim Tebow, and then there was a couple other guys that weren't near as popular as Jeff Foxworthy or Tim Tebow. And it's just, to me, God is our Father,
right?
Like you said, you don't have to be perfect and do everything exactly right. I also believe that you shouldn't know how to act and totally not do any of it, Right. So yeah, for me here lately, like I said, it's just, I'm learning a lot of okay, how can I be a better father, and how can I lead at home? How can I lead at this office? It's just, to me, it's
very important.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And then I look back and I'm then I respect my dad when I was 2 and I was the youngest of 3 kids, and my mother said, hey, give them up for adoption. And my dad's like, no, I'll raise them myself if I have to, and he had my aunt and uncle and a lot of good people helped,
support around him.
But it's, you think about what you learn in life and growing up like that, one thing that I do always, a lot of Amish are self-employed.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why do you, is that, I mean, I know it has to do with how you're raised, but do you know why?
I think it's just something that's in us, how we're taught. It's you got to go out and fend for yourself, right? You got to go out and provide for your family. That's a big thing. I mean, the men go provide, the wife stays at home and takes care of the family. So, and not everyone has their own business. I mean, there's some guys that'll, especially, guys in Milroy, and there's not near as many Amish there as there used to be when I was growing up. But there's a lot of them that do. They go out and they I mean, here it's construction's a huge thing. I mean, a lot of them have their own construction business, and they'll go work for another construction company for a while, and then they'll branch off and start their own thing, So I think it's just a desire for a better life, desire for to better ourselves financially, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes we run into a brick wall, So that's pretty much what I did when I thought it was the coolest thing to do. I can build barns. I can do construction. I'll just go do it myself. That wasn't quite as easy as you thought it might be. But circling back to you talking about being the father and the being present, this is crazy. So we were at a conference a month ago, and they had us write down. They had us write a letter to ourselves, right? And then we turned it in. It showed up in the mail yesterday, and I had no idea what I wrote, but I opened it up and it says, continue changing your mindset to improve. Basically, continue improving your mindset. I forget the second part, but the third part was focus on spending more time with family. And I looked back over the last 30 days, and I have spent more time with family the last 30 days and made it a focus. Even if I didn't remember what I wrote down, I wrote it down, and I picked that up last night and I read that and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. So it's opening the door up and the kids come running and give you a hug. I mean, that's just almost gets me emotional talking about it. I mean, it makes my day.
Well, and one thing that I've been learning the last couple years, a bunch of us here went through this training called The Journey to Nobody. And like the biggest takeaway that I got from there is like, you know, when you're a kid, the world's big and you can do anything in the world that you want. Mm-hmm. But then we all get to that point where like we quit believing that. Yep. You know, and, you know, like I tell the story of like, just act like a kid. Ray was helping me hang gutters on my new barn, and the ladder slipped out from underneath me. 12 feet down, there was a slab of concrete, and I hung on to the gutter enough to rip out 6 hangers.
Oh my.
And then I finally let go, and fortunately, I landed on my foot. I jacked it up a little bit, but it could have been way worse. Well, like somehow I'm tangled in the ladder, right? My oldest daughter, Reagan, which just turned 9, came around the barn. No idea what just happened. Ray's probably 20 feet away from me. He looks over, makes sure I'm okay, and only like Ray would, he just keeps working. And Reagan,
you'll be fine.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, now I will give Ray credit. He did text me, called me a couple of days later, like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm a little sore, but yes."
Need to go to the ER then, but yeah, no big deal.
But Reagan comes around and she starts talking to me, just a conversation. I mean, she had no idea what just happened, and she's just in her own little world, you know. And it's one thing that I learned from that training was like, try to see the world through your kids' eyes, and try to step back and like, you know, they enjoy the littlest things.
Yep.
They don't need expensive toys. I mean, how many times do we buy our kids something and they play with the freaking box?
Yeah.
You know, like girls, a couple Barbies and they're content for days.
Yep.
A boy can pretty much make anything out of anything, you know, and that's just something that I've tried to be more intentional about. But really here recently, any dad is what energy, what do we bring? Do we bring peace or do we bring chaos?
Right.
And to me, I'm a high D personality, which I just heard through one of Joby's podcasts. I think it was a wife of one of the guys we're talking, said, yeah, saying you're a high D on the disc profile is pretty much just giving the excuse to be an asshole. And I was like, ow. So I'm being honest here. Like, when you come in and, you know, are you bringing peace or chaos? Right. And I've tried to, unconsciously you do it, but I've tried to step back sometimes and watch. And sometimes I walk in here and I know I've hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, an insurance audit or this or that, you know, and a lot of times the team don't even have a clue what's going on, you know, but I've just got to be conscious of that. And that's something I'm personally working on, like I said, just to watch what kind of energy I bring into anything, because, you know, like I want my kids to be happy to see me, you know. Absolutely.
One of the things that I try to do and I try to be conscious of is when there's, because I'm the same way. I'm a high D personality as well. I mean, like like out of control D. I mean, go back a few years, golly. But awareness is everything, right?
Yep.
But anyway, I try to de-escalate the situation and be conscious about it. So when there's something going on and they're throwing a fit, they get mad. I'm more of the type of parent that's going to say, "Hey, look, you understand what's going on here? Like, what's wrong? Like, or you understand why you're getting punished? Like, de-escalate it, talk to them instead of going into high D mode. Like, you did this,
Yep.
you got to listen, No, you need to listen to us. Right. You need to listen to mom and dad. That's why you're getting a spanking. But I used to not be that way. I used to be more of a, I let my personality take over and my frustration take over, but watching how the kids replicate and copy our actions, that's huge.
The first time I see my son yell at his sisters like I just yelled at him.
Yeah.
And I was, come here, buddy, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get on you for yelling at your sister. I'm going to step back and I'm going to say sorry for yelling at you because I just watched you do exactly what I did to you. And like for me, my oldest girl, Reagan, that's 9, like she is her mother, the miniature version of her mother, even the personalities of like, you yell, you get loud with Emily, shuts down right away.
Yeah.
Reagan's the exact same way.
Yeah.
And like I said,
it's crazy the different personalities that kids have. And
right.
And I've learned a lot about the DISC and the DISC personality profiles and all that in the last 2 years, and then trying to figure out which personalities your kids are and trying to deal with them in their way. That's difficult sometimes.
Well, it's like, for me, it's like, okay, we're fortunate. Like we've got Adam that's been here 4 years now. We've got Ellie that's been here 3.5 years. Chris, Cody, Nick, average over 4 years if we put them together. So you start to learn that, like and you just start to learn their leadership style or just their natural habits of whatever that looks like. Right. I always use this example. Adam wants every detail. He wants it to be perfect before he puts something out.
Right.
Chris, he hears about a third of what I say and he puts it out the same day. And it's like, I need to put them two together sometimes where it's like, okay, Chris, let's slow down here a little bit and don't forget these 3 details. And then sometimes I'm like, Adam, let's just do this. It's going to be okay. Like, it's funny. I tell him, like, when I decided to do this podcast, it was about this time of year, maybe a few days. I mean, it was middle of December. And I ordered it, and I said, we're having a podcast done before the end of the year. And I think we messed up on the lens we ordered or something and had to order another one, but we just, we've done it. So, I mean,
we'll figure it out as we go. And I'm the same way. And I get crap about that all the time from the guys, from the team, and from James. Like, James, being in partnership with James has taught me so much about DISC personalities and profiles. Just because he's an S.
Yep.
So I'm trying to figure out how to communicate to him to where I'm not coming off as a high D.
Yep.
Right. I mean, but when you're comfortable with someone, you don't think about these things.
Yep.
And I'm comfortable communicate with him, but sometimes I'll leave a conversation and I'm like, maybe. Then I'll think about it for a little bit and I'm like, maybe I should go back and ask him how that come across, because I think I come across a little, and then we'll have a conversation about it and be like, okay, well, we're good now. We're good now. I'm sorry,
Why don't you try to be business partners with your wife? I think that's her DISC also. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, okay, like, and that's another thing that I've learned with leading people. Sometimes I ask, what did you hear me say?
Yeah.
Because I've been in a room where I've told 2 people something, and they've both went and done what I thought I wanted them to do, and they did the opposite. Yeah. And, even sometimes, like, Ellie's been with us long enough, and Ellie's comfortable enough to be like, hey, you're kind of an asshole when you said that. I'm like, okay, let me back up, And fortunately, the team that's been here most of the team, as long as they've been here, like they know my heart. Like
Right.
they know that I'm just a big softy once I break that outer shell, you know, but it's just something that, you know, like I said, it's what I'm working on for my family, because that's what my kids and my wife deserve. And the team deserves it too.
Right.
And I know that the better dad I am, the better leader that, you know, I'm going to be, because going back, like it's from when I was raised by my dad, and I love my dad and respect him so much. However, I act just like him sometimes. I'm like, gosh, freaking darn it.
You know, I was the same way. I said, you know what? I'm never gonna be like my dad.
Yep.
You know, and I love my dad, and I have a ton of respect for him, just like you just said. And you know, he's a completely different person today than he was when I was growing up. But when I was growing up, I'm like, I'm never gonna be like my dad. And one of the first times I yelled at one of my kids, it was like, oh my gosh, well that sounds like my dad. So I went through that, right? I went through that where I had to fight against that, and I had to realize that, hey, we've got to get this under control. But learning the disc personality types, and that's been huge. I mean, just for the team,
Right.
I can sit when team members have conflicts out on job sites. We can sit down, and I'll be like, I know that this high D here did not mean to say what you heard.
Right.
You know, I can promise you he didn't even think twice about it. So I know that you're upset, but now he knows, and he's gonna apologize right away. As soon as he's aware of it, he's gonna apologize.
Right.
You know, so it's helpful in every aspect of life.
No. Yeah, like I said, I get it. Like it's just growing, and it's just part of it, you know. And us high D's, we just got to be dumb enough to think that we can make it. You know, like I always tell people, there's really no secret sauce here. I'm just too stupid to quit.
Yeah.
Or you know, you know, we've tried stuff me and Adam have with marketing. I was like, oh my gosh, Adam, what the now. Next time, let's cut that off a little sooner, you know, but you know, it happens. So let's talk some insulation here.
Sure.
Because, you know, that's kind of your specialty. You guys spray foam the attic in my new house, this year sometime. I can't remember.
Earlier this year.
Yeah. So, you know, kind of talk a little bit about that, why you do insulation, and then I guess some things that you do different, or, you know, the good and bad thing about construction is you can always find somebody to do it cheaper, but also like what are you getting? And I'm just going to go ahead and say this out loud. Like I've witnessed a couple times where you guys have came back and fixed some things because that's the kind of guy that you are. And that's why we team up with you. You're the kind of subcontractors we like to use. Like we've all made mistakes, unfortunately.
Sure.
But it's like the ones that are willing to go back and fix it, you know, because that's life. Like in construction, a lot of people understand that, you know, 99% of jobs go the way we want. Then there's that 1% that seems to haunt us.
There's some that just don't go the way you plan. So
yes.
I mean, when I first started the insulation business, or bought the insulation business from Dad, it was just thought it was an easier way to make a living. I was confused.
So what did you start with, just blow in, or was he doing foam?
No, he was doing spray foam.
Okay.
So that's pretty much all I did.
Okay.
Was spray foam for the first year, 2 years, probably year and a half, 2 years is pretty much all I did. And then as we've grown, we've kind of expanded into blow in, bats, and all kinds of insulation. Now we'll pretty much insulate anything and everything. So, but kind of the reason we do it now is because we get to see the difference it makes in people's homes. We know the correct way to insulate, and we know that if we're going to do it, it may not always, like you said, we make mistakes. There's times we make mistakes, but if we're going to do it, I know that it's done right. I know that they're never going to have a problem with it, and if they do have a problem with it, we're going to stand behind it, and we're going to. I mean, spray foam is a lifetime product, right? So if there's an issue with it, Well, there's only one person to blame for the most part. The manufacturer, I mean, most of the times it's going to come back to the installer. So we get to see how it changes the way people the way people heat their houses, the energy that they use. Just for instance, we insulated a house in Trafalgar for a Christian camp over there, and I talked to him a couple days later, and this house hadn't been insulated. It's been sitting out beside 252 it's 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh my gosh, the difference that made is incredible. I mean, we can stand in the front room now and we don't feel cold, and we don't hear the traffic like we used to. You know, it's those phone calls are like, yeah, that's it. That's what we do this for, is to make a difference in people's houses, in their buildings. Our mission is to deliver excellence and service wherever we go and every time we show up. Just to be able to change, and also to just change the way that people think about insulation. Most of the people are like, yeah, we just need insulation.
Right.
We're building a new house. We're building a pole barn. We need it insulated. Well, what do you want? You want spray foam? You want bat? What's your budget? We can provide you with whatever you want, but here's what you're going to get if you do this. And if you go this route, it's going to be cheaper, but you're also it's not going to be as efficient either. A lot of people nowadays, I still am trying to understand that, but it's just the general concept of how people think about it is they want to spray foam the walls and then blow fiberglass insulation in the attic. When, I don't know if you've studied the stack effect or how building science or how buildings work and anything in the building science world, but everything goes out the top.
Mm-hmm.
So all your heat is going to rise, and in the wintertime, your cold air comes in the bottom, and if there's a place for it to escape, it's just going to constantly change air in your house. But if you can shut off seal off the attic, whether you do it with air sealing and then blow in on top of that, or you spray foam your ceiling or your roof deck, you can stop the warm air from escaping out, and your house can only pressurize so much before no more air can come in. So if you stop the air leaks up top, you're going to have a much more efficient, warmer, easier to heat, climate controlled house, and there's not going to be cold spots everywhere. I live in a house that I can't do much about it right now, and there's cold spots everywhere because of the way it's insulated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big thing for me is to, because we do a lot of new construction, and the big thing is that I can make sure that the house gets insulated properly.
So if you are doing new construction, do you recommend the walls and the ceiling?
So, and that depends. It depends on their budget and what they want to do. I mean, let's say someone is building a new house, I'll go to them and just had this conversation the other day. Is what are you wanting? Because we can go spray foam everything, walls, ceiling. Then we have to properly size your HVAC system. There may be, if you've got a lot of humidity in the house, you may need a dehumidifier. You're gonna need a fresh air system on your HVAC system, and there's different things different steps you're gonna have to take in order to go that route. Your HVAC contractor should do a manual J. I don't know if you've ever heard of what a manual J is. It's just basically takes your whole house, the way it's insulated, your windows, your doors, how many windows and doors, takes your whole structure, and it just calculates the load that's needed for your heating and cooling. So it makes so you get the correct amount of air changes per hour, and that keeps that air moving, so you don't get a extremely tight, efficient home where your HVAC, where your heat or your AC only kicks on for 15 minutes an hour.
Right.
And then it's not drawing enough moisture out of the air, It's not, you don't have the correct amount of air changes per hour, you're going to have some stale air and some humidity issues.
So what, open cell, closed cell?
Yeah.
What do you recommend? Is there anything where it's always closed cell or always open cell? What does the thickness? Because like one thing that I struggled, I mean, I'm an Owens Corning shingle shingle installer, so of course they sell blown in insulation, and we're working with a shingle issue with spray foam, that kind of stuff. And it's so, I know spray foam isn't new, but it really kind of is, that even in our world, like you can't get straight answers from these shingle manufacturers because they're gigantic corporations and they don't want to take any responsibility. Glad I can say that and not get canceled these days. But so yeah, kind of explain that, because I get people that call me and they're like, hey, I'm going to insulate here. I'm like, all right, call this guy. Cause like, I know a little bit, but like one thing that I appreciate you is like, you're knowledgeable when it comes to this kind of stuff. And like when we're selling, I train my sales guys to educate people. Like I want, when we leave the house, I want them people to be like, well, I talked to 4 roofers, and by far they knew the most out of anybody.
Well, and saying that, you can know, but they also care to teach me in the proper way, right? They took the time to explain it to me. But most of the time, so let's go back to the first question. You said when closed cell versus open cell. Most of the time, probably 99% of the time, on pole buildings, we'll do closed cell, because of the metal and the just the cold of the metal can cause some moisture issues. Sometimes it depends. It's a whole list. It's a whole list of things that have to happen, but it can. And with a pole building, there's gaps and cracks everywhere. Closed cell just seals everything up nice and tight. It's an air barrier at 1 inch. Open cell isn't a complete air barrier, and we can only normally get about 5 inches in there. So the same R values are close to the same as what we can get in there with closed cell versus open cell, or what we do. Normally we do 2 inches of closed cell on pole buildings and sheds and shops, and that does a really good job. And we've had tons of luck with that. A lot of, we've had positive feedback all around. I've never had a customer call me back and say, man, I wish I'd have went a different route because this just isn't working. Then as far as spraying on roof decks, and we're kind of dealing with a project right now that, from everything that I've been taught and all the research that I've read, it doesn't affect the shingles. We've had that conversation. It doesn't affect the shingles. It only heats the shingles up at less than 10 degrees. If you spray against the roof deck versus ventilate the roof deck. But then we have shingle manufacturers that say you can't do that, or we're going to void the warranty. I think Owens Corning has a their warranty. I believe you've got to run baffles all the way up and all the way around. Ventilate from the eave to the ridge, back down the other side to the eave again, and then you can spray it, and then they'll warranty the shingle. There's tons of spray foam. I've got giants in the industry that I know of that are spraying roof decks directly to the OSB, and have for years and years and never had any problems. Mm-hmm. Now they'll pop up here and there throughout the year. There are these issues that show up, and spray foam is what gets blamed, because it's the new thing that people don't know anything about. So with that situation, I want to take care of what I can on my end.
Right.
And the last thing that I want the homeowner to do is for us to come in and install a product, and then they have problems with a roof or shingles, and then not have any support. So if there's anything like we're going to do, we've done research right on that project, and we're still working on it. And at the end of the day, I'm not leaving that project until the homeowner's satisfied and happy. But I don't believe that spray foam causes shingles to wear I guess I should rephrase that. I don't believe that spray foam is the reason that shingles fail.
Right. So now you say that, I'm going to do it next summer because we just spray foamed our roof deck. And I know a neighbor that doesn't have spray foam. Mm-hmm. So I want to get up there and check temperature and just see what kind of difference there is. Because it's a question that we get, you know, and I mean, we're all in business to make money. Yeah. We're in business to take care of people. So we want to limit the screw up.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, it's, you do a job really, really well and nobody talks about it. Right. And then, that 1 out of 100 jobs that just kicks your butt, then, they know everybody. Yeah. They tell everybody about it. But so closed cell on pole barns. Yeah. What about walls in a house? And I even forget, like some people will spray foam basements underneath, and then of course attic. Like where do you line for that? And then like you mentioned something earlier also about more of a not hearing the noise as much. Yeah. That one particular job. Yeah.
So that particular job was actually a loose fill job where we went in and we filled the wall cavities with dense below fiberglass. Yep. So but anyway, coming back to that. So basement walls, crawl spaces, anything exposed to any kind of moisture at all that may be exposed to any kind of moisture at all, we use closed cell foam because it doesn't absorb the moisture and it'll seal everything and keep the moisture from coming in. Okay. If you put open cell in a crawl space and there's moisture, any kind of moisture, it'll absorb that moisture and it'll just act as a sponge. Yep. Basically. As far as walls in a house, if it's 2x6 walls, it's kind of one of them good, better, and best kind of things. I mean, you can do bats, fiberglass, just traditional insulation. You can go open cell, or you can go closed cell. Closed cell is going to perform better. It's a better product, but it comes back down to budget and what people want and are comfortable with. As long as they're 2x6 walls, I'm comfortable installing either one into that. But with open cell, we'll do a full fill, 5.5 inches. That gets us to the new required R value right now. It's an R20 in most of the state anyway. Some inspectors don't uphold that, but there's.
So when you're talking R value, like that was one thing that like I struggled with, like when people first started talking spray foam, because like for me, the philosophy, it's like I just spray a little bit more of that Pink Panther insulation up there. A few more inches won't hurt. It'll only do good. But then it does eventually get to a point that it is a waste of money because it can only keep so much, so much in. So kind of explain that, because to me, it's you can get more R value with not spray foam, with the blow-in, correct? Yeah. Technically. Yeah. And I guess you kind of already talked a little bit about it, but it's more of the air can escape through the spray foam. Yeah.
So that's why spray foam is so valuable and popular. So an R19 bat fiberglass insulation has an R value of 19 in the middle of that insulation. But where it loses its performance is the edges against the stud. It's not completely sealed around outlet boxes and stuff. Air can still move through there. You can still feel cold air coming in. That's where spray foam outperforms fiberglass, hands down. I mean, there's no comparison. So at the rule of thumb that we go off of is normally 4.5 inches of closed cell, which is an R30. Okay. Is what we try to put in houses if we can, if the inspector allows us to go that route. And we can also go and this is a whole other conversation, but we can also go a performance route versus a prescriptive. And and it allows us to put less in than the required R values. With open cell, it kind of depends on what the house is. Either most of the time, we would probably try to put an R38 in, just because it doesn't perform quite as well as closed cell. But it kind of depends on what we're spraying. Sometimes it's just rafters, right? And there's 2x10s or 2x12s, and we can put 10, 11 inches in, and that's all we can get in. But 4.5 inches of closed cell gets you an R30, and 8 inches of open cell gets you an R30. 10 inches gets you an R38. So so that's 10 inches of foam. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of foam.
Right.
That's a lot of foam.
How much foam did you put in my house? Because I don't even know.
8 inches.
Okay.
8 inches. Yeah. R30. And, yeah.
Okay. How much can you put in there? I mean, until it quits adhering to itself,
no,
I guess.
It'll still adhere to itself. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can put as much on there. I seen a Facebook post the other day of some electricians climbing up in an attic of 4 foot of open cell foam in this attic floor, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But you can always spray foam will adhere to itself.
Okay.
The problem with when it doesn't adhere to itself is normally when you're going back over it and putting the second pass on too quick.
Okay.
And it's still too hot.
Okay.
It needs to be able to release that heat and cool down a little bit. And it's always going to be better to the smaller you make the area that you're heating, So a lot of people, they think, well, we got to spray the roof deck.
Right.
If we're spraying the attic, we got to spray the roof deck. But if you don't have any ductwork in your attic, spray the ceiling.
Yep.
Let that attic work as it's supposed to, ventilate. As long as it's ventilated correctly, never going to have a problem up there. And then you're only heating, you're taking that square footage of the attic square footage out of your, out of that square foot that you're heating and cooling. So, but a lot of people think about that, and they're like, well, we don't really want to. What if we ever have an electrical issue? Right. That's kind of everybody's drawback.
Right.
It's an electrical issue there or a leak in the roof.
Right.
And I tell them, you need to call people like Bob Hoel and Hoel Roofing and have them come out and do a roof inspection every year. And then
and I know, I've been told on the roofing end, you want open cell on the roof deck in case there is a leak.
Right.
That it'll come through, because if there's closed cell and the leak's up top, that water will stay trapped and run down that OSB until it gets away. And then instead of one spot, you might have 30, 40 feet, So
yeah, and that's true. And it's kind of depending what you want to trade off for. At least your house isn't going to get damaged.
Right.
But with open cell, it's not just going to come through. Okay. Right, it's gonna open cell acts as a sponge.
Yep.
So it's gonna ruin a bunch of insulation before it actually starts dripping through.
Okay.
Unless you have an open spot somewhere where you've got the skin shaved off of it or something, then it'll soak through and start dripping. But
yeah, I was on a job and I have no idea if you guys did it. It probably had to have been your dad if you guys had done it, and the freaking chimney was leaking. And it was spray foamed up in the attic, and where the leak was at made 0 sense. And I'm like, it's got to be running through and then showing its ugly head right here, because the way where it was leaking at was this makes no sense.
Right.
But that was probably 6 years ago, and I didn't know a darn thing about spray foam at that time. And I think it had been spray foam for a while also. So that was, like I said, for us, we became friends. You do some work with us. And once again, it's just a way to learn more for us, because when we run into spray foam, because we're running into that, more and more.
Yeah, it's getting more and more popular. And it's this project we're working on. I think when we finally get everything figured out, I think it's going to be a great learning curve for both of us, and trying to figure out what the do's and don'ts moving forward, and how we can avoid any kind of issues that may arise. So
right.
I'm kind of looking forward to getting some more feedback from that and seeing what that's all going to transpire to. But
yeah, because what I've learned from studying is some manufacturers have shortened their owl box warranty is what we'll call it, with shingles when it comes to spray foam. Some are still at the stance where it voids it completely.
Right.
So that's actually something I'm going to do some research on, just so when we have our 2 shingles that we normally push, or not really push, but we talk about the most, we install the most.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure we're giving homeowners the best option if they do have spray foam or want to do spray foam. So if there's any problem, that particular job we're on, the original contractor was a nationwide company that closed shop out of Indy. So now they're back in Colorado and St. Louis, and
wherever
then, they don't care that this guy's got a problem, and I'm trying to help out because A, it's the right thing to do. B, I know the family, and C, like, it's a learning experience, also for us. So outside of like, hey, my house is cold, I know I need some insulation. Yeah. What other signs can people look at that maybe they're like, you know what, I noticed that, so I probably need to call Keith and have him come out?
So the big thing is, right now we got snow, right? And through the winter, look at your roof. If the snow stays on your roof, your attic is probably insulated correctly. If your neighbor's snow is still on the roof and yours is melted off, you probably do not have enough attic insulation. So, and that's one of the things that we've started focusing on a lot more is just coming in and doing some retro work and offering that and adding more insulation or doing a removal. I mean, these old houses that have been insulated for 50 to 100 years, I mean, they've got all kinds of nasty things in the attic. I mean, mice running around there, bugs, and I mean, rodent feces. And so everything is important when it comes to the air you breathe every day. And that's part of it, right? So we'll remove that, and then we'll do the air sealing. Then we'll seal all the ceiling penetrations and your wall edges of the wall and the drywall, anywhere the drywall's gapped or meeting up with the wall, we'll seal everything and then blow fresh new fiberglass over the top of that. The other thing that we run into a lot is there's no eave vents. Well, there are. The soffit is vented, but there's nothing allowing that air to come in the attic. There's no baffles. There's no there's nothing that's allowing that air to the attic to ventilate properly and pull from the eave vents. And so 90% of the jobs we do where we go in and do an attic like that is we're installing baffles around the entire house. So they just didn't do it back in the day. I mean, a lot of people didn't know, right? Didn't have that knowledge, didn't know how important it was for the attic to breathe, and just blew the insulation, said it'll be fine. Yep. It's insulated, right?
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I mean,
you guys deal with that too. I mean, that's your thing. That's your thing as well. I know that. I mean, Nick has called me before and about some baffles, and that's one of your main things that you look at when you go out and look at a job. So,
and that's why when we are doing a roof inspection, we ask to get in the attic. And if your roofer isn't getting in your attic, you probably shouldn't hire them, you know. And, I mean, they've got that eave vent that's similar to the ridge vent that we can cut in install that. It don't look as pretty up on your roof. However, if your roof lasts 10 years longer, I think you get over it don't look as pretty, you know. But, yeah, I mean, there's just – and especially we're in a rural area, so there's a lot of these homes that are old. Yep. You know, you go to a neighborhood that were built 15 years ago, they should be insulated properly. Yeah. They should have baffles. A lot of horror stories there. Yep. Had a lady one time call me, and she said, my roof's leaking. And it was a real cold time, and I was like, are you sure your roof isn't because we had done the job like 2 years before that, and she had no problems. I was like, are you sure that it's just not sweating inside? And sure enough, the soffit was plugged up with insulation. Yep. And that particular problem was her cousin was a roofer, which I don't understand why she didn't hire her cousin to put the roof on. Well, I kind of do now, but so she called me like, well, my cousin said this, this, and this, and she was on the southwest side of Indy. Her cousin happened to be from Rushville. He had done some work for me on a barn and was buddies with a buddy of mine. So I called my buddy. I was like, hey, man, like, tell him to call me because he's giving me a black eye with his cousin. And her response was, he said you didn't put black paper down. I said, you're right. We put synthetic down. Like synthetic felt is what we use now.
Yeah.
Well, he says black paper. And I said, 30 years ago when he started putting shingles on with his dad, probably was black paper. However,
hated that stuff. Hated that stuff.
So fortunately for me, I had pictures. And the sales guy had taken pictures, and I sent over, and I was like, is this your house? And she's like, yeah. And the picture was taken from his truck, because what it was, we used to have this one crew that we used to call the fast crew, and they would be done by 11:30 in the morning, done. Like, tore off, replaced OSB, shingles back down. We did a job in Zionsville one morning. They were done by 10:30.
Oh, my goodness.
It was 17, 18 square, but literally, like, Saturday morning they wanted to get home early, but so he had taken a picture and said, man, I love these guys. And it was literally like 9:15 and the house had been ripped off and filled it back in. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, now you remember when I said we didn't use black paper? Yeah. And then I kind of had to prove to her like that synthetic felt was the new standard.
Right.
And I ended up going up there and taking some shingles, the first 3 rows off, and showing her that the felt was there, and then I looked at the soffits and I said they're all plugged up, and I said, and her cousin's like, I'll deal with the soffit. I was like, please make sure he does that, because you're going to have the same problem in another year or two.
Yep.
And so I mean that's another thing that is the importance. If you're going to ventilate the attic, it has to ventilate properly.
Yeah. You know, and that's the most compromised area of your attic right there, is right on top of the wall, right by the eave. Because it's normally, in older homes, there's only 3.5 inches of maybe sometimes 4. But nowadays they have the energy heel of the trusses, right, where you got about 8 to 10 inches there. But when you've only got 3.5 to 4 inches of insulation right on top of your wall, and all your air, all your heat in the wintertime is going up, all it's going to do is create moisture right there, just like you were talking about, right? And when there's no air, when your attic can't breathe and move that air right there, you're going to have problems. That's how ice damming happens. That's how gutters get ripped off with ice and snow in the wintertime. And that's one of the things that we do a lot, is because I hate when we can't put baffles in a project, right? When people just get us out to do the insulation. Because one thing that we make sure of is we use a baffle now that sits on top of the wall, and it extends out to the top of the wall, to the outside of the wall, and then goes up.
Yep.
So that you can get proper amount of insulation on top of the wall. The other thing that we do a lot is we'll spray foam the top of the wall, that baffle in from the top of the wall to account for that lack of insulation that's going to be there. So it'll be it'll seal everything off there. It'll keep that air from coming in and meeting that hot air from the house, and it's more efficient. It's a little bit more efficient for the most compromised part of your attic right there.
So if we need insulation, spray foam, bat, also blow in, and then also you just call it loose fill for the walls.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't do a lot of that. We've kind of getting into that, but it's something that we did some training on this year, and so we've had good luck with the ones we did. So awesome. Yeah, awesome.
Well, Keith, I appreciate your time coming in here. Thank you, sir.
It was fun. It was a good time. I appreciate it.